Now back to Just Jenny. Follow Jenny on Twitter @JennyHutt and like her page at facebook.com/JennyHutt.
Daphne Valerius, welcome to my show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
First of all, the first thing I need to say is that you, Daphne Valerius from Souls of Black Girls, and on Twitter, you're at official Ms. Daph. That is it. You who has been doing the social media for you? Because whoever does it does the best job. Because I have had this reminder that you're on the show for like the past 10 days, and I love it. Like, it's so on. I am so challenged with that sort of thing. So when someone else does a way better job than I do, I think get A+. I don't know where it comes from.
I mean,
yeah.
I just have to tell you, Jenny, because I slay. I do it.
Well, you're amazing. So let me tell you, you're amazing.
I have a team as well who retweets and things like that. But, you know, a lot of my creative things I do myself because, you know, I just have to. I just like my brand to be represented a certain kind of way. So for the most part, I do a lot of it. So.
I think it's great. You do a terrific job. So it is Black History Month, and so let's talk about this documentary and the website Souls of Black Girls, and really what it's about, who's a part of it, and why it's important.
Absolutely. Well, we're actually in the 10th year anniversary of the production of this film. So this film was actually produced 10 years ago while I was in grad school at Emerson College in Boston.
That's so funny. You know what? I knew that Regina King looks a little different, but I wasn't thinking. I was just watching the documentary. And so
yes.
I saw her recently. I got to interview her, and she's awesome and amazing. And I'm like, she's phenomenal. And I was like, oh, she looks a little different. And she looks younger. There you go. Okay.
Yes. So this was done, 10 years ago. And it's really a piece that most recently had its first television broadcast on Aspire TV in association with the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans. And so it's just kind of garnered a new conversation, if you will. And, I'm excited because it's all perfect timing because the sequel is actually in progress right now.
Oh, that's so great. And are the same people involved? Is Jada Pinkett Smith involved in the new one, and Gwen Ifill? And
we hope to absolutely have them all involved, all who are involved with the original. And basically, this is a documentary that was done during the time before, when MySpace was in existence at, the level that it was. This is before Facebook and Twitter and social media. And this is when Flavor of Love was like one of the first reality television shows on the air. And that's when this documentary was done. And it was really just kind of questioning the landscape all around us at that time. And so we completely evolved so much from that place where we were. So I'm excited.
I'm trying to think where... I'm trying to go by, because this was I didn't even tell you this, Nakia, that literally yesterday, when everyone's like, how long will you stay at the Super Bowl? I said, I'm going to stay from like 6 to Beyonce. Because that was it. I was like, once Beyonce hits, I'm out.
Exactly.
And so, so Beyonce first became really famous or successful on her own. Like, we all fell for Beyonce around 10 or 12 years ago, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Beyonce's been on the radio forever, and even when this film was produced, I mean, she, 10 years ago, she was definitely, on the radar doing her thing as a solo artist. She had just evolved from Destiny's Child and everything.
Right.
I mean, I grew up with Beyonce. I mean, I remember exactly where I was when it was announced Destiny's Child and the whole MTV thing was breaking up, and the whole debacle that happened there. And so just watching, someone who you admire evolve over time as well, to see her growth last night on the Super Bowl was absolutely exciting, exhilarating, and amazing.
Unbelievable. I mean, as Nakia and I were both saying, she has more confidence and I'd say ability in her pinky than I have in all of me. She's really, So you produced this, so you're producing the second one as well?
Yes, ma'am. I am producing this. The original film, which is what is currently being available right now, is the film that I produced as my thesis project from Emerson College. So this is me, in school, in the graduate journalism master's program, just trying to get my education and get my degree. And
I went to Tufts. I'm very familiar with that whole area because I was in Medford.
Yes, so I did that, and I just had relationships with a couple of different cast members, including Regina King. She was a mentor of mine for a couple of years. Chuck D was someone that I was introduced to during my undergraduate studies at St. John's University because my mentor was also his mentor. So, I mean, I really believe that God orchestrated my cast for me, and I just reached out to them as a student, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this film. Would you be interested, et cetera, et cetera. I got on a plane, went to L.A., did my interviews with everyone. Gwen Eiffel that year was the keynote speaker at Emerson's graduation, so that's how she was involved, because by the time I interviewed Jada Pinkett and Regina King, some administrators at the school took notice, and they assisted me with booking her. So, we're just kind of going hard and getting the job done and telling the story that I wanted to tell from the perspective of a Black girl who was very, much in a space where I felt very insecure about who I was and what I looked like and things of that nature. I never felt beautiful and pretty and things of that nature. But when you put together a documentary and you have, people that you look up to, like Jada Pinkett or Regina King, telling you that you need to look in yourself, and you're doing the editing and you're transcribing the footage yourself, you can't help but, kind of think like, okay, well, maybe I don't, I really need to just, look within myself, to find my self-value and my self-worth.
Which I think is important, by the way. It's important for women of color. It's important for all women. I think, unfortunately, I think there's sort of a double whammy, unfortunately, for a woman of color. And having watched this, and just historically, I get it. But I think women as a whole, where sort of I certainly don't ever feel like enough, ever. Yeah. I never feel pretty enough. I never feel thin enough. I never feel smart enough. I never feel accomplished enough. I have that same, and your take on this, sort of that the media perpetrates part of the self-loathing that then sort of comes from it or evolves or something, that there's a lot of contributors to causing this insecurity.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of contributors, and especially, when you're growing up and you're in your formative years and you're in your teenage years and things of that nature, if you don't have representation in the media of people who look like you and dress like you, whose hair is just like you, whose skin tone and complexion is like you, then you feel a certain type of way. I'm one of those Black girls who grew up, in our culture, in our society. I went to private school all of my life. I was always that one Black girl in private school, in a class full of all of my peers, and I had great, friends and everything, but I was never the girl that anyone had a crush on. I was always the one at recess, like, when kids are picking teams, it's like, okay, I'm the last one picked, that kind of thing. And so at an early age, you're exposed to racism. You don't understand, quite frankly, what it is. And I was teased. I was called Daffy Duck. I had dark circles around my eyes, so I was called Black Eyed Peas. I was very shy, very introverted, and so it took a lot of undoing. And I honestly say, and you guys being in the industry, you guys understand how things are put together and produced. So it's like you're listening to a song over and over and over again, and then from there, all of a sudden, you start, embracing the lyrics and things like that. So me editing my own film, I did all the writing, I did all the shooting, I did all the editing, I transcribed every single video.
You did a great job, yeah.
It's it's now when you're editing and you're in the edit suite and it's pitch black, there's no windows. There was just this. I felt like producing this film was my healing process.
Oh, yeah, because all of a sudden, because you got perspective. I mean, that is so, it's an incredible gift. All that hard work you did to put this out came back to you in the way that it helped heal you. And that makes sense because you actually saw who you are. You saw a beautiful, accomplished, smart, talented woman. It wasn't about the color of your skin or what you look like. I mean, I guess I would hope that there is some progress made. I mean, just thinking about the sort of the breakdown of schools, of private school from when I was a kid in private school with my kids. My kids' school is much more, everyone just hangs out. There's not the same, because I know what you're talking about. I mean, I went to a private school, and I think there were probably 3 or 4 people of color in my class when I was a kid. And it's not that way today, thank God. That it's not, there is this, there needs to be much more progress, but as you're telling me, I just feel bad that you had any sort of moment that anybody made you feel any way other than fantastic. That just sucks. It just
Well, I
bothers
think
me.
that private schools are, trying to evolve, but I don't think that it's an issue that has been resolved at private schools around the country or schools in general. I mean, I
Right.
think there are definitely the classrooms. I mean, my niece included. She goes to a public school in a suburban area, and she's one of 3. So
Wow.
the issue still remains. It's not something that has gone away. Just because we have the First Lady, just because we have Beyoncé, it doesn't change these things. And I think even for Beyoncé, she was making a statement because she's, gotten to a place as a mother where she is now able to make a certain statement as a result of her own issues and things that she goes through with her own daughter and the texture of her daughter's hair and whether her hair is done, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Well, I happened to Nikki and I were talking before the show about the lyrics of the song because I had gone into an exercise class today and someone was saying how the lyrics were inappropriate. And I just thought the song was fierce. I was like, this song is just a freaking anthem. Like, it's just cool.
Absolutely.
It's just awesome. And
Absolutely.
so, and then, but you talk about the lyrics. And so I guess my question for you is, how do you feel about it? And
I love it.
Because it's just strong. Right.
Yeah, yes, I love it. I love everything that she does is always very meticulous and it's always very thought out. And in this, I, for one, being a thinking person who is educated and I know my own history, I mean, she was saying a bunch of different things in those lyrics. One of the things that she's saying is that I know I'm Black. One of the other things that she's saying is that I know that, and I embrace the fact that I prefer that my child's hair is in an afro and with baby hair. And I love my husband's nose. Even when the Jackson 5 didn't like their own nose. I prefer the Jackson 5 nostrils. I mean? She was saying such a statement, and I think that people are uncomfortable because they understand. They've come to embrace a Beyoncé who never talked about those things, and they've gotten comfortable with that. But I think that she also put a mirror to people and forced them to embrace their own and question their own self-hatred.
But that's why it was so good. But that's exactly what you were doing 10 years ago.
Yes.
And that's exactly why 10 years later, it's so relevant what you were doing, because that was essentially part of what her song was. And I just thought, but the singing it then, because this is going to be my white 15-year-old daughter is going to be singing this song constantly. So it's like, you start to think it's a tough thing because, and my daughter loves Beyonce and does the dance moves and really does have a diverse group of friends. So, but it's, what do you do there? How do you explain the history in the right way of why Beyonce is saying what she's saying? I guess that's part of it. Just that I have to explain it and then go through that history, because even the other day we were talking on this show about how Joseph Fiennes is picked to play Michael Jackson in a movie. And I find that outrageous that they're having a white guy play Michael Jackson. I don't care that he quote unquote looked white by the end of his life. I don't care. He was a Black man. So there is a wonderfully talented Black man somewhere who's yet been found yet who would be right for that gig.
Right.
So, but we know the history. So how do you work with a song like this to explain to a white kid who's singing it, all the history and all the importance?
I think it's definitely a matter of taking the time to really explain to them that there was, and being honest. I think that just in general, we saw most recently that, one of the larger textbook makers of this country chose to omit specific wording about slavery in certain textbooks. I mean, the history of African Americans in this country we're always like a footnote. This kind of happened, but let's not remember this. This is kind of in the past. And I think that that's what actually needs to happen. I think that it's deeper than her, in the lyrics where she says, my father's from Alabama, my mother's from Louisiana, and you mix the Negro with the Creole. That is her making a statement. I know I'm a product of slavery, and I also know that I'm also a part of a people that were called Creoles and were mixed with so many other ethnicities. A lot of people have never even heard about that. A lot of people don't even know what she's talking about. They think that she's only talking about, a language or a patois or whatever. And I'm of Haitian American descent. I know this history. I've known who Toussaint Louverture was since I was 8 years old because I chose to look up the country of Haiti, where my parents are from, in the encyclopedia. A lot of children are not taking the time to then go back and look at the history. If you Google Creole, you'll find a lot of information about that. If you Google the term Negro, you'll look at, and I think it was brilliant that she even used the term Negro because that's what blacks were called. She made a conscious decision not to use the word black.
I understand that, but the word Negro is a word that I just would not use because
and I understand.
Of course, I mean, it's just not part of my vernacular. Why would it be? It's just,
exactly.
So there's this part of me that I know, yes. And it doesn't,
And just because, I mean, we're only really a couple of years shy away from that term having been used to classify Black people in this country.
Right,
So we have to understand that. But it's not a matter of feeling bad or feeling this guilt, like, oh my God, like, they're calling themselves Negroes. Like, no, it's for you to understand, like, we acknowledge this. And I think that it's just really at a point where Beyoncé is forcing people to face their truth.
Right, but here's my question, and I love it. And by the way, I love it. And I actually, because I am a product of music and I love music and I love all kinds and I think it's important for all of us to really know all of our history and learn what we don't know. And I think that's we're all human beings who come from various places, and why not just get over ourselves and all just be together? It's also stupid. And I know this and you know this because we're thankfully evolved people. So, but in this kind of, when I hear a word like Negro, which I know isn't the quote unquote N-word, it makes me very uncomfortable because I do know the history. And I'm comfortable with her using it and happy she's, because you're right. It's important to make a point. And I love how powerful this song is. So I just want the right message. That's all. I just feel like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think and I think that was her goal. I mean, she just, it's just time for people to be proud of themselves. Be proud of your Jackson 5 nostrils. I thought that's like one of my favorite parts in the song. There's so many
because
things in there.
That's right. Because what comes with that?
Away from who they are. Yes.
Right. You're going to take all the talent, take the nostrils too. It's all freaking awesome.
Exactly.
Anyway, you're awesome. What a project to have taken on at such a young age. That you must be now, especially 10 years later, looking back and watching it and seeing what still rings true and what maybe rings true a little less. How do you feel?
I think that it's been interesting to watch reality television evolve to where it is now. Yeah. And I think that, being a woman, I'm very sensitive to how we treat one another as women. Across
like shit. Like shit. Daphne, like shit.
It's not a white thing. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills are doing it, just like the Real Housewives of Atlanta or Orange County. No one is exempt now. We're all, but it just also makes me question. I always pose the question, if a film like Waiting to Exhale were to come out in the climate that we're in today, would that film even make it at the box office? Because tearing down women at the core of who they are, tearing down women going through a divorce or going through all life's, trials and tribulations is now celebrated and perpetuated and exaggerated on television for ratings. And it's like, when are we going to stop with this? Because I don't have friends like that. Like, I don't have friends that, like, if I go to their house and I'm telling them about, a relationship I'm dealing with or something that's not going well in my career, I don't have friends like that are going to tear me apart and then throw bottles of champagne at me. Like, I don't have friends like that. I never grew up like that. I don't know these women personally. But as a producer, I also know on the other side that it is for the purpose of money. It's very well scripted.
I know, but you could choose to do it or not. I agree with you. It's frightening, and that's one of those places that I've never felt comfortable in terms of that was never going to be my career trajectory either. Because I can't. Yeah. I want to build women up. I want us to do right by each other in an open and honest way. It's not about having no feelings. It's not about having the feelings of anger or envy or jealousy or worth stuff, but it's understanding and recognizing that that all comes from a broken part inside of each one of us that has nothing to do with the other person and where the other person is headed. That it's
Right,
all about,
exactly.
So at some point we have to like turn around and lift each other up. I mean, I look at the Hillary stuff and I think that so many, whether or not you like her political viewpoints, I do believe that a lot of what has happened to her is because she's a woman. And a lot
Absolutely.
of the negativity is because she's a female, and it's messed
Absolutely.
up.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, when I think about the campaign, and I just try to, there's a lot of, pomp and circumstance that's going on as well, and that's to be expected. So me personally, I just think about at the core of who this woman is. This is a woman who went through a lot. I think about who Hillary was as the wife of, our nation's president at that time, who went through a situation in her marriage. And was broken. We haven't seen the Hillary that was broken in her heart and crying in her closet and probably didn't want to come outside. Because her husband is involved with this scandal, et cetera, et cetera. This is a woman who still rose to the occasion and got back up again. This is a woman who ran for presidency, and still she did not win the first time, and still she was invited to the current administration, and she humbled herself. Think about so many people who would have lost, and then Obama would have been like, okay, well, you can come and be, on my staff, Secretary of State, whatever. And like, no,
and they would have been like, go suck an egg.
They would have been like, no, she humbled herself.
Right.
She humbled herself and rose to the occasion and did the job. Now, from there, and still, in the face of all of this, she still decided to get back up and try again. I'm a huge believer because life isn't just going to always be roses and dandy, but I'm a huge believer in the fact that there's something to be said about someone who falls and falls hard and falls publicly and falls in a way, but yet still rises to the occasion to get back up again.
By the way, you're so right. Yeah, I'm talking to Daphne Valerius, and you should go to soulsofblackgirls.com to check out her site and read about her and to order the DVD. But I agree with you. I think that she handled herself in an unbelievably tough set of circumstances, better than so many of us may have. And for those who judge her, either for, I don't know, staying, whatever, it's like until you actually walk in someone else's shoes, you don't really know any of it. You don't really know any of it. And that's that women against women sort of tearing down thing that happens that is just, to me, completely intolerable. Not okay.
Yes.
So I love what you're doing. I love how empowering you are and how cool that you're in the middle of the updated, newer, next one. I look forward to seeing it. And so people have to go to the website to get this one, to get this documentary?
Yes, you can go on the website. We aired on Aspire TV last year, and so right now we're working progressively on a sequel. But you can, a lot of people never knew about the first one in the first place. So you can go to my website, soulsofblackgirls.com, and you can purchase a copy for yourself and share it with others. I also do private screenings of the film. So, people, oftentimes will bring me to their colleges and universities and different communities and things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to sharing the message of the film. And in addition, while we're sharing the message of the film, also introducing people and announcing that we are working on the sequel and we are looking for, we're welcoming support this time around. Because this time I'm not a student anymore.
Right. No. You don't have a school to fund it. You have to actually ask for the money.
That's what's happening. So I'm really excited about moving forward with the sequel and bringing that to the world. And
are you going to kickstart it? Are you going to kickstart or go fund it?
No, actually, we are being using our minds. We're garnering support behind the scenes. We want to do a Kickstarter eventually to really involve our fans. I'm just not a fan of begging people to participate in my project, and it's like, it's not going to happen if I don't get $1, and then at the same time, too, also very mindful of the fact that it's a challenge to them because then you're kind of in debt to all these gazillion people who gave you $1 to make your
it's a
your
whole
film.
different thing.
So we want to engage the public with a with a Kickstarter that we will do just for promotional purposes. So we're really looking forward to having fun with it and not it being, a thing like this film is not going to be made if you don't give me $5,
Right, I love that. Well, come back as you move along and let me know how it's going. And if we can help with any of it, that would be great because I think it's
Thank you
really
so
neat.
much for having me and wishing you a happy belated birthday as well.
Thank you. I'm so old. It's so awful.
Well, that's the issue that you have to kind of, and begin to embrace and celebrate that.
Let me tell you, I'm doing a lot of work on myself with my wrinkles and the whole bit. When my mother was my age, I think she had already gotten her eyes done. My mother passed away 7.5 years ago, but by my age, she had already done her eyes, I think twice. She maybe, I don't know if she had a facelift yet, but I look in the mirror and I'm like, a little Botox is all I got, and this is just what I look like, and it's not fun, and it's not. I don't enjoy what I see looking back at me, but I know that I got to work on that. So that's how it goes.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'll be keeping you in my thoughts.
Thank you.
To that.
Well, I am glad that you found your way into learning just how gorgeous and fantastic and smart you are, because that through your work and because. Gosh, for anybody to feel less than, it's just not fun. So thank you so much for being on my show and doing such important work. Thank you for having me.